Well, I think it's a mix, certainly. Again, there are certainly those who will say, finally, there's a president who's standing up to China. Finally, there's a president who's really getting the attention of the Europeans, noting that, look, I sat at NATO meetings where President Obama did this, where Secretary Gates did this, President
They all have
Bush
their own style
this.
of doing it, though, don't they?
This may be a little bit more rhetorical, shall we say, and certainly the use of Twitter as a means of communication is not standard. But if you know, as I said inside earlier today, when you're looking at U.S. foreign policy, certainly read the tweets, but then follow the troops, follow the money, and follow the policy. Because in a fair number of cases, the tweets belie what really is a bit more continuity. If you look at NATO, for example, actually NATO is spending more on defense, not just the U.S. And the fact that the U.S. spends $730 billion on defense means that the capabilities of the entire alliance are elevated considerably. But we have an armor brigade back on European soil. We have troops along with other NATO allies in the Baltic states. We are sketching out bases in eastern Poland. There are 2 new commands for NATO, alliance commands, to move the logistics further east and so forth. All of this, other than the friction that exists, which is very significant and important, between NATO members, in some cases instigated by the U.S. to be sure, and in some cases very legitimate. But other than that, you actually have a NATO that is more capable than it was even just a few years ago. And we should not overlook, by the way, 2 other major factors here. One is the greatest gift to NATO since the end of the Cold War, and that's Vladimir Putin and his aggressive actions, which has given NATO a reason to live again, if you will, in a very significant way. And then also that the European countries, however fragile the economy of the EU may be now, certainly have long since come out of the euro crisis. And so they could devote more money to NATO as well.
Very interesting you should bring up Vladimir Putin, sir, because, I mean, his rearmament, his reinvigoration of the Russian armed forces, a more focus on the Arctic, the reinvigoration of ports in that part of the world, has it caught NATO napping? And actually, because at one point there was a US pivot towards the Pacific, does the US need to look at both theatres now with equal attention? Is Putin a real threat to the Western alliance?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say with equal attention. I think the single biggest development in the world this century has been the continued rise of China, because keep in mind this is a 40-plus year history of achievement unequaled in the history of mankind. What China has done since Deng Xiaoping welcomed the world to China has been extraordinary and again, truly unique. So that is the big development. And then the other big development is the general rise of Asia. And the history of the future will be written more and more and more in Asia. So the rebalance to Asia, a better term, I think, than the pivot, which implied leaving one to go to the other, I think is very much the biggest of the big ideas for the United States when it comes to its foreign, defense, diplomatic, even economic policies. Having said that, the U.S. is very much a superpower, and superpowers can keep more than one plate spinning at a given time. The biggest plate certainly is the one that has China on it, and then maybe one for Asia writ large and the Indo-Pacific and all the rest. But certainly there is a resurgence of great power rivalries that's not just between the U.S. and China, it's also between the West and Russia. And Vladimir Putin has been the cause of that.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.